this market is I got a word of advice for you all, right? Because it's going to serve you massively, right? When you start your day trading, you usually come up with a bias and you say to yourself, oh, today I expect it to go down or today I expect it to go up, right? When you apply technical analysis, right? At the level that I look at technical analysis, right? I look at the bids and the asks and the depth of market, and I try and get an idea for how price is going to behave at a specific level. Oh, looks like everything's pretty up to the upside. I'm sure there's going to be a bit of a pullback, but wait till you get your sign, Tino, because your bias, you're looking for the idea of price coming down, and you're waiting for an entry on the Nasdaq. 5 hours, man. What did that thing do? Obviously, there's been a great news announcement regarding NVIDIA and the OpenAI story as such. But Nasdaq has this is why they call it the Widowmaker. This is why they call it crap for traders. This is why it's unbelievable what's going on. I'm watching the depth of market again, and literally 3-4 ticks down, bang, let's go back up again. I counted on the 4-minute time frame because it was the time frame that I was looking at. And out of 76 candles, only 17 of them were closing negative. And they were closing at the highest level just to mark it off as a close. That was negative. It's not like they were big closes. I mean, what the hell, man? Even Bloomberg starting to tell people to be responsibly bullish. I wish I had hair to really give my head a scratch, man. Like, what's going on? All right, then. Welcome. Crypto's broken. Yes. Bitcoin has just done nothing today. It's just stayed exactly in the same spot as it was when we started this live. Made a little bit of a burp to the upside, but obviously drank his Gaviscon and brought balance back into play. No real movement there. But we've had some kind of shocking news about stablecoins. This actually comes into play, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have ourselves a real problem. Massive, massive problem, which explains why Donald Trump is adamant that the Federal Reserve is packed with people crypto friendly. So if you are new, welcome to tonight's live stream. Let's break it all down and help you understand what the story is moving forward. So let's go. Here we are. So NVIDIA, man. Let's just have a look here. So they've struck a deal, right? A really good deal to invest $100 billion into 10 gigawatt factories. Okay, cool. That's fine. Just look at this. Look at this. Earlier on, I jinxed NVIDIA. I said, look, the all-time highs aren't being made and there's no big stocks performing. NVIDIA shoots up 3.93%, narrowly touching it towards its all-time high. It clipped it just by a fraction, made a new all-time high to only reject from that point, ladies and gentlemen, right? Gold. I mean, I wanted to see gold go down, and that just went to pants. Why is gold going up still? Is it in interest rate expectations? Maybe. We had a number of Fed speakers today giving us mixed signals on where we are with interest rates. Okay, so everyone was cool at the start, and then we had another speaker come in starting to say that, yeah, maybe tariffs are going to hit the consumer. Tiny amount is going to hit the consumer. What do you define as tiny? Fundamentally, the tariffs are affecting the US consumer, and we know that. Price consumer index itself, that's going up, and PCE, sorry. And of course, that is a bit of a problem for consumers because they're absorbing the cost. Like I said before, you might have a tariff. You're from Japan, you might have a tariff, and your purchaser is in the United States. Well, the guys in Japan are going to be like, okay, here you go. Well, you put a tariff on us, so this is what we're going to charge you now. And the US guy comes along and is like, okay, then we'll take that. He comes along, scratches his head again and thinks, hold on a second. They've just charged me more for a product I used to purchase off them, but not because it's their fault. It's because Trump's put a tariff in play. So if I'm having to pay more over there, that naturally means I need to charge more for when I provide it and sell it to my consumer. So the consumer ends up footing the cost, even though originally the idea was that the tariff was designed to make sure that foreign countries pay for the tariffs, which is correct. They are paying for the tariffs, but you're having to front up the cost as well. All right. And that's the problem that we've got, ladies and gentlemen. That's why this story of inflation seems to be a bit of pain in the ass. But looking at gold's price action, it's just not stopping, man. Where does this parabolic madness come from? I mean, this is the NASDAQ, 25K, ladies and gentlemen. 25,000. Look at that. Unbelievable. Clipped it towards that 25 and 26. Like this thing, what point does it... Here we go, look. Where is it? Where is it? Hold on. At a time when equities are yet again at all-time highs, on the back of strengthening big tech, investors should be responsibly bullish. According to Tony at Goldman Sachs, he says, just be careful. He said, positioning looks elevated while tech rally shows no signs of relenting. Like, come on, man. It really is. I'll tell you what it is, all right? I'll show you, look. Let me show you something. This is what it is right now, okay? And it's going to help you make sense of this madness, right? NVIDIA was down here earlier on, okay? It was down here, okay? And when we're looking at NVIDIA, it was like the pre-release of the new iPhone 17, for example, right? iPhone gets released, bang, everything goes up. That's the thing about tech right now, ladies and gentlemen. All it needs, okay, to keep this AI rally going, which is why they're proclaiming the idea that it's going to be a bubble, is a partnership needs to come into play. Before you know it, Microsoft's going to get into bed with OpenAI. Before you know it, Meta's going to do something with NVIDIA. Before you know it, the Magnificent Seven are all going to just keep on doing things together to sustain this rally to the upside. Why? Because that's where the bulk of all the market cap is currently being formed. Google, 3 trillion, NVIDIA, 4.5, nearly 5. I said $6 trillion, $250 a share. We're not too far away from it. It's getting quite wild, but let me just bring you to the concern that I had earlier on at the start of the live stream. Look at this. Federal Reserve enforces stablecoin interest ban under the Genius Act. That is dead. So we can only use stablecoins for payment only. Well, we know that's going to be a flop because they're trying to do the same thing with XRP, and look at that. This really does cause a bit of a problem for us, ladies and gentlemen. I can't lie. It says Fed stablecoin interest ban impacts issuers preserving payment role. Okay. And the payment only use enforced as savings tool ban affects stablecoins. What's that going to do to the boys? The boys that we want to get invested in. Where are we? Hold on. Circle. Let's have a look at that. How's that going to impact them? I mean, it's not doing too bad, ladies and gentlemen. Can't complain about it. It is consolidating nicely. I am starting to get ready to start purchasing this thing. Okay, so let me just quickly have a look at bullish for a second. Yeah, bullish. Like, so this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be buying this in two different ways. Okay, firstly, on BTCC, you can actually buy stocks and you can trade crypto and you can trade Forex and you can trade gold and NASDAQ and all that stuff. And this is my favorites list right here, but you can just have a look at all the actual stocks that you can trade. So if you can't trade stocks anywhere, because certain stock accounts require a minimum balance of 25K if you're going to be doing day trading. But whereas with BTCC, you don't need to be worrying about that. And you don't need KYC or VPN either. But more, depend on where you are with VPN. But anyways, you can see the list of stocks here. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be getting involved in buying bullish Circle on here, and that will be effectively like a leverage. You can only do 20x leverage on here, but I'm going to be buying them through here, okay? And then I'm just going to be buying it just on spot through a different company, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see if I can exploit it on volatility-wise, because I'm expecting that the markets are going to keep on moving up, but primarily Circle and bullish, all right? I'm waiting for Gemini to come out with this situation that they've got with the SEC. Once that's put into bed, then okay, we know where we stand with them, okay? Just to quickly put it into perspective, just go to Gemini, and come on, there we go. So that story right there, it seems like this is pulling back right now because of that discussion that's happening with the SEC. And once that does get finalized, we'll know where we stand with this company. Even though it's just taken a smack to the downside, it's because of that story with the SEC that's keeping this suppressed. So I'm going to wait to see what happens with that. and I'll be looking to pick that up as well. But I am going to be placing my positions here on BTCC just to take advantage of the presumed volatility that's coming into play, okay? Going to be keeping an eye on Intel as well because Nvidia's getting into bed with Intel. So there's lots of things happening right now in that space. So this is where I'm going to be placing my plays in regards to Circle and Bullish. And quite frankly, guys, there's other cryptocurrency-based stocks like Mara and Riot, but I'm playing these IPOs. That's what I'm doing. I'm playing the IPOs first because I just want to see if it's going to work out well. Now, of course, with regards to this story right here, that is absolutely dead. Federal Reserve's John Moulton announced the enforcement of Genius Act, emphasizing stablecoin restrictions to mitigate interest payments, ensuring focus as a payment tool. What the hell are you doing, man? That doesn't make sense for anyone in cryptocurrency, especially in the stablecoin market. And then that obviously means that Circle itself has got to start making sure that they get involved in certain partnerships. There is speculation there's going to be other partnerships coming into play that they're going to slowly be releasing. But isn't it ironic how all of a sudden we're starting to get lots of partnerships coming into play, especially in the tech market? OpenAI, Intel, the US government, they're all piling into the tech market. And for me, this is because they are absolutely wetting the bed, the US, in regards to the advancement that China is currently in with the tech race. US wants to be number one with the tech race. That's what's fueling this move to the upside, ladies and gentlemen. But not for crypto. Let's make sense of it right now. So firstly, let me just show you, okay? Let's make sense of this. Gold, traditionally used as a safe haven asset class. Interest rates come down, gold naturally travels up. If there is a war or geopolitical tensions, gold's price goes up. That's gold. Oil. Conventional wisdom says that when oil starts to rise, that does have an impact on the US stock market, primarily the S&P 500, because if oil's prices start to rise, well, the majority of the S&P is made up of a lot of transportation companies. That means they're naturally going to feed the cost or get the cost of oil's price being higher. That means it's going to cost them more money to do business in terms of transportation. That then gets rolled over to the consumer or the purchaser who's using that service. And then that, of course, creates a problem in regards to price and what have you, and inflation maybe. So the idea is that when oil's price goes up, the stock market pulls back. We know that the disparity between oil's price down and stock market up, that makes sense right now. Cool. Volatility index currently up 2.36%. CME, Chicago Board of Trade, volatility index is currently up nearly 4.2%. The NASDAQ, of course, is up magically up by 0.5%, clearing out these ranges, all-time highs, trading into the abyss. I have a price projection of NASDAQ, and I think it's going to go to 52,000. How about that? With the rate that this bad boy's behaving, quite realistically, ladies and gentlemen, 30K could be on the cards. You understand? This only 6K away. All right. This rally to the upside so far has consumed roughly around $14 trillion. All right. If they're at $14 trillion, nothing's going to stop them to add another 5, will they? No. So we go on that logic. But volatility index is up. The NASDAQ and the S&P are up. Conventional wisdom says that when the VIX goes up, that's when you need to start preparing yourself to cover yourself. Why? Because hedge traders are stepping in to protect themselves. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, be responsibly bullish. You're being told to be responsibly bullish at the all-time high. All right? So what's leading the move, man? Let's just break it all down. So look. If we go to the NASDAQ itself, you can see that it's done very well in terms of volume, lower than what it was last week, okay, on Friday's close with the options market, but it's actually only up 7% today, okay? So that's really interesting to say. But what we got to look at as well is who's really performing today, all right? So just bring this up and have a look at who's breaking out today. We've got 3 stocks that are breaking out today. That would be Shopify. And you can see Shopify is breaking out of this cup with handle. And you've got Jabil. Okay, looks like it's breaking out from a cup with handle. Volume is only average daily volume around 1.3 million. Not really great, but it's a contract manufacturer of electronics for aerospace, automotive, computing, consumer, and medical industries. All right, so it's up there with the tech market as such. And then you've got Nvidia, okay, which is just about to break out from this flat base that we've got here. But you know what I've said to you before, you need to start seeing the big tech stocks breaking out to the upside to justify the idea of the stock market sustaining this rally to the upside. Well, now we've had this move. And we've had this partnership. So we know that Nvidia, even though it's investing 100 billion, they already had their reduction or the future possibility of reductions in their revenue because China's banning this H20 story, not to mention what Trump's talking about with this new HB license, what have you. I haven't dived into it as much, but I'm seeing that it's a bit of a problem. But looking at the market, it doesn't look like it's a problem, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if we go over to the yields are up nearly 0.87%. Expectation is interest rates are going to end up being higher in the future. Whoa, hold on a second. Isn't when the yields go up, I mean, 0.5% on the 5-year, 3.7% right there. 10-year yield itself still at 4.1%, and the NASDAQ is still climbing, higher yields. Well, let's put it into perspective. Look at all these companies. Nvidia's going to plant $100 billion into OpenAI. So where are they getting that money from? In other words, what I said earlier on in the Discord was, it's clear as day that interest rates are not a problem for the tech market because these companies are sat in rich cash positions. They can absorb anything if they're throwing $100 billion. Just look what happened with Trump. All those guys, tech moguls have all come together. We'll invest this, we'll invest that, we'll invest this. Hell, we will get involved in Intel because it's struggling. We'll chuck money over there. Do you remember what happened last time with Silicon Valley Bank? When all the boys from the financial companies like JP Morgan, Bank of America went in and bought up these banks and the government had no reason to even step in and intervene. And then all of a sudden, the markets have absorbed the idea that banks have successfully managed to recover themselves in terms of stress tests. Ain't the same shit happening now in the tech market? It's like the tech market's doing its own thing. They are keeping it alive and the retailers coming in and just absorbing it all and taking it and taking it and taking it. Question is, what could really cause a problem for the marketplace? Well, look, man, Bitcoin has really let us down. It's just not really going anywhere. Going into the actual open interest right now, I mean, there we go, saved it, happy days. But look, it's Bitcoin really needs to do something inside of this zone. This is a very important range for Bitcoin right now. If it doesn't bounce from here, it's, ladies and gentlemen, dustbin. That's what Bitcoin is. It would be a dustbin situation because it means your Bitcoin's going to be cheaper, man. I mean, that's horrible. You don't want a cheaper Bitcoin. No, you don't. You want an expensive Bitcoin, not a cheap one. You want an expensive one. Let's go and have a look at other assets across the board. Ethereum, altcoin season in the bin. But actually, let's just break it down if it really is in the bin. Let's have a look at the totals chart. Here we go. So total. I mean, it's a little bit of a smack across the board with regards to the altcoins. I mean, you've broken moving averages. You've broken absolutely everything. You've smashed the fine China, but you've got this massive red vector candle, which would be consistent with a nice little accumulation back up. As you can see, you've got that play right there, and it's come back up to only roll down. Got another vector up there to come back down. Logic says that if they're going to sustain themselves, they're going to come back down to then reverse back up to then roll over. Are we done with crypto right now? Let's be honest. Is cryptocurrency done? Because you got to ask yourself this question. NASDAQ has consecutively risen to the upside, gained over 1,000 points since Friday. All right. And Bitcoin has done the opposite. Is Bitcoin giving us the clue? Is it giving us the clue? Because cryptocurrency is only a let's look, $3.83 trillion market cap. NASDAQ right now is what? Over 26, 27, maybe even $28 trillion market cap. That's the NASDAQ collectively overall. So you're going to pay attention to when that marketplace is pulling back, and you're going to pay attention to when it's rising as well. But if cryptocurrency is only 3.8 trillion, why on earth is no one getting involved? The optimism in the stock market is enough to get people into it, but this is what I mean about rotation. All right, things are starting to move in the marketplace that are not making sense. That's why you're now being told, be responsibly bullish, because this is where people start getting to the idea of fear of missing out. And I've said this before, is cryptocurrency really giving us the clue that things are going to hit the pan? Because crypto can move so aggressively up or down, it doesn't matter the drawdown. If everybody expects that a pullback on Bitcoin, a nice pullback, or start of a crypto crash will be 83% move to the downside, crypto can do that because we can absorb that sort of thing, but Wall Street can't. And they don't start bear markets at speed. It takes a little while. But once the market comes into play, boy, ladies and gentlemen, they rip it to the downside. Is crypto giving us that clue? The next logical spot for Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen, in my honest opinion, okay, looking at Bitcoin on the daily time frame, the next logical spot would be down at the 107 zone. The next logical spot also could be down at the 100K zone. There is no reason why Bitcoin can't come back down towards 97. There's no reason why it can't come back down to 87. When you say that it can't, you're lying to yourself, okay? You're lying to yourself when you're dealing with a range that is visible. Don't say Bitcoin can never, you can actually say Bitcoin will never go down to $4,000 unless something chaotic happens and there is an EMP that shuts everything off. Bitcoin's price is the last thing that you're going to be thinking about because you ain't even going to have any power to trigger the selling of your wallet. Okay, so that doesn't matter. Only a freak event would send Bitcoin down to these levels. Okay, only a mad event. All right, so let's just outrule the idea of that being something that happens. Okay. But when you look at the way Bitcoin is behaving inside of these ranges, it would be valid to assume that there's a possibility that Bitcoin could easily recover more than 50% of this move. It's not even made a 50% corrective move from this low to the downside, okay? Back when the tariffs come into play, all right? So they moved up from the tariff story, and now look, we're not even in the 50% of that range, all right? So it's still okay for Bitcoin to make a move, but this drop here on the Bitcoin, right? On the Bitcoin, and price looking like it's going to close below the 50 EMA today. It would need tomorrow's candle to really recover back up, given that tomorrow we've only got the flash manufacturing data and they're expecting it to be okay anyways. Anything below 50 is a problem for the US, but it also encourages the idea that, yeah, we're going to get interest rate cuts. So everything continues up. I mean, how much more can the NASDAQ go up? I'm pissed off, man. Honestly. I don't get how this thing can keep on going up. It's defying all... Anyway, I'm going to finish with that story, but go back into Bitcoin. So the logic is that we do have key areas in Bitcoin that need to sustain themselves from an open interest perspective right there. Happy days. You've got the key level 112 and then going down to 111. If Bitcoin loses 111, again, you're going to have to start reevaluating the circumstances because the only way Bitcoin can move up is and continue to move up because I want it. There's something that's going to happen, and I want to see Bitcoin come back to this because Bitcoin should only really come back to this. To start the move to the downside, Bitcoin needs to come back to this area here. Otherwise, then this area here is clearly the highest point in Bitcoin until we get the next logical story in regards to interest rate. Fed speakers today have been giving us some BS story, not even consistent with what's going on in the Federal Reserve. All right. And then Powell's going to be speaking tomorrow and just giving us his tie and his coughing and all that BS. And he's only going to regurgitate exactly what he's been saying in the Federal Reserve without any opposition from all the reporters and the news anchors asking those really provocative questions. But the logic to me says that Bitcoin's move away, wiping out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, nearly 10 days worth of slow price action. This is a problem that you've got. Look how long it took Bitcoin to travel. 1, 2, 3, 4. So look, this is what you've got to understand about the intention. From this open here all the way up to this area here, a $6,431 move, a 5% move on Bitcoin took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 10 days to come and make that move to the upside. And it's taken 1 day to near enough recover, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 of those days in one trading day. Look, and it even went down towards the open of that candlestick right there. All right. So you can appreciate that there's like people and participants getting ready to dump out, okay? But they are looking to buy it. Don't get it twisted, man. Look, they are buying in these range. I've told you, focus on the buying. Don't focus on the selling. The selling is what you are going to be doing with profits. The buying is where you've got to take into consideration. Look, we know there's participants here sat in the book. We've got a little bit of liquidity up here that they could easily gun for, but the liquidity is building to the downside. We're getting some decent orders lower, which is what we want to see, because then we're going to get to a point when Bitcoin's price stalls. And then you've been profiling what's been going on all this week of Bitcoin going down and down and down. And then you say to yourself, okay, we might be in line for a little bit of a move to the upside. Here's some great news. This news today on OpenAI with NVIDIA is great news for Bitcoin. It's endorsement into buying something. Are they manipulating Bitcoin, or is Bitcoin giving us the truth that investors are not prepared for risk on assets? Is Bitcoin still deemed as the risk on asset class? That's the question that is on everyone's minds right now. Take your Bitcoin cycles, any logic that you want. But for me, fundamentally, they are just gunning for liquidity. They don't care about your cycles. They don't care about anything. They are the facilitators of whether you can buy or sell Bitcoin. Let's just quickly go and have a look at where we are with the liquidation levels right now, just to put it into perspective. And then I'll let you guys be and you can conclude about your day per se, whatever. Okay. Where we at? Here we are. All right. So look at this. I mean, they're eating long liquidations and you got clusters. This right here is not good. You never see this. You never see a cluster of liquidation points. This doesn't make sense. And you've got nothing here. It doesn't make sense. Tells you that something is actually wrong. Okay, that, you know, you've got participants not really committing liquidity. It's all spaced out and what have you. You can see clear as day, there's a conviction that there are short sellers. Okay, that's where the conviction is. Down below, there's not really that much happening in regards to the longs. Okay, it looks like they've been eaten alive, especially with this move to the downside on Bitcoin. All right. So it really does grant the question and say to you, okay, then maybe what if we're going to start making a reversal back up? Well, we're starting to see some interest coming into play, but they're equally getting liquidated. So the late short sellers of this move lower are effectively now being tested. Okay. But as we go into Asia tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to then reveal if they really do like this business with regards to the NASDAQ. Okay. Exhaustion gap coming into play. Is this a climatic move? When does this thing actually pull back? It hasn't touched its moving average on the daily time frame from what? September the 4th? That is wild. For the NASDAQ. It's absolutely crazy. Anyways, Tino, is there a reason for the big drop of cryptos today? I mean, no recovery, WTF. Risk on, risk off. That's what it is. Even if we then go on the assumption that participants are going into much more safer risk assets like NASDAQ, okay? So you hear great news about cryptocurrency all the time, but does it actually do anything? No, it doesn't. Cryptocurrency news is this. Trump says, I'm going to buy Bitcoin, okay? You're waiting for him to buy Bitcoin. That's it. That's all you can say. Whereas when you've got NVIDIA that says it's going to invest $100 billion with OpenAI to build 10 gigawatt factories, okay? And put all that to work. What does that sing to the investor? Revenues, new tech, new services. People are going to be paying for this service, both in OpenAI and NVIDIA. And me as an NVIDIA shareholder, I'm thinking earnings per share, baby. Forget what's going on with China. I can take that and put that to a fundamental perspective and look at earnings per share in the near future. What's my ratio going to be? What's my returns going to be? My dividends. I can do that. With cryptocurrency, you can't. All right. You can look at yield. All right. That's staking. But with Bitcoin, you need someone to say, I'm buying it. That's it. Michael Saylor, no one cares if he buys anymore. That's dead. Because you only expect that. All right. Back in the day when they were like, you know, Saylor's going to buy. I was like, wow. How much is he buying this time? Wow. How much more is he getting? Wow. And then what? I mean, all these investors keep on buying these convertible bonds and now you're all paying for it. And the reason why no one's excited when Saylor buys is because you're all buying the shares that he's offering to go and use that money to buy it. So he just messes up any opportunity to pump Bitcoin's price when he buys it because the dudes that would be buying the Bitcoin have already spent their money giving it to him. Anyways, I'm not going to continue because that is just wild. This game, you know, I wish I had my hair back so that I could actually pull it out. You know, this game is it's funny. LT, which stocks and shares, ISA platforms do you use? God, I've got loads. I have got loads all over the place. You know, it's just for different exchanges, different ETF platforms, eToros and all of that stuff, depending on the fees and what have you. You know, certain ETFs that I get involved in are priced differently in one place and against the other. You've got to really, there's so many companies, but there's a reason why there's so many of them because they all have different perks. Okay, so you've got to really do your work on that. Tino, do you mind checking RXRX stock? I think that might be for tomorrow, my friend. Is that a decent stock? RXRX stock. Recursion platform. Recursion farm. Clinical stage biotechnology company develops technologies that enable drug discovery. Very decent volume for a $4 stock. Okay. Lots of funds are playing this bad boy, but earnings per share is due in 44 days. I think my best recommendation to you so far, ladies and gentlemen, is QBTS. Brilliant. Gave it you at $12. Not $12. Was it $12? I don't know when I remember actually telling you guys about it. It was 8, 9 or something like that. I know one guy's absolutely ripping it apart with this computer company. Quantum, man. Bitcoin. Nah, I'm not even going to say it anyways. Brother, do we need to look at Tino say pay attention? Why? When Bitcoin supply is low, you'll be delighted to be holding MicroStrategy. Yes, okay, but Bitcoin supply and exchanges is low. So what's going on? Is this just the shakeout? Because they seem to be buying more of it. You know? Tino, what's your eToro login? Just type my name, Tino, and the password itself is anyways. Tino, can you explain the correct and most efficient way to journal my trades every day? Look at your balance after a trading day, or look at your balance on a trading day, and then look at your balance after your trading day. If it's red, you messed up. If it's green, you did good. Understand why you messed up. Understand why you did good. Look at the market and say, what did I do well? I did this well. What did you do wrong? You did that wrong. Did you do the wrong really well, or did you do the wrong really bad? Get used to doing the bad really well, which means get good at losing as little as you can rather than losing as much as you can. All right? There are 2 habits that you can get involved in. I was good at losing a lot. I mean, I was the best at that, man. And I was proud to say I would lose a lot of money. All right? And then I came to understand, right, listen, I'm really good at doing that. So let me just try and flip it and get good at losing little. And then from that, ladies and gentlemen, you then find your path towards consistency. There's no one that is continuously profitable, but I know that I can manage my loss. I can take a loss, but I know I can manage my expectation of loss because I train myself to get used to losing as little as possible. All right? That's, in my opinion, is the only way that you can understand how to trade, journal your trades and what have you. Because at the end of the day, your balance is going to be reflective of where you are in your trading. Doesn't mean, you can have a day where you're losing, okay? You can't look at your day and be like, shit, I'm down today, okay? And then be like, that's it, it's the end of the trading journey, unless your account is wiped. But unless you then put more money in, it's a different story. But it's how you then come back from that, all right? Trading is the long-term game, but in these messed up markets, no one's in the last 5 minutes. But anyways, Tino, what is the most promising stock in your opinion? Quantum. Now listen, quantum-based stocks, in my opinion, is the next era of tech that's going to evolve. You've also got to consider medical companies that are going to be requiring AI. Some of them already involved in it, but companies like Intuitive Surgical, they're going to start diving into AI. All right. And they're going to start utilizing it really aggressively. AI is going to smack any environment of technology. All right. Because they're going to take someone that utilizes it from a human's perspective, in the sense only a human can operate it. Then they're going to get AI to do the human's job in principle. That's where I think everything's going in the stock market. I'm looking to invest in humanoid robotics, man. Robotics companies are going to explode. They are. Look at what money's being put into the infrastructure to power all of it. 10 gigawatt factories. Look at that. They need to build the infrastructure first. And how are they going to power that infrastructure? It's got to be dumped somewhere. They've got to get the mainframe to communicate and talk. It's all done on servers and what have you. I mean, some of you might correct me in regards to how it all operates, but just putting the logic together only makes sense. Why are we only talking about cloud? What's the story about storage, data? They start somewhere, and then everything else that tethers off from it is just the benefit, Why are you buying Circle now if NASDAQ is so high? Because Circle has got a different thing going off. All right, it's different. There's things happening behind the scenes with Circle, the stablecoin market. All right, And once this story with the stable coins comes into play, look, the partnerships are all coming out, okay? So that's this long-term play for me, ladies and gentlemen, quite frankly. That's what it is. The circle is a long-term play. It's just an accumulation thing because they haven't come into the US stock market for no reason, all right? After so many attempts and failed at that because of the SEC stopping them, now they're here. It's just going to go to bed. It's going to be in the bin. No, nothing like that. NVIDIA obviously wants to get involved in humanoid robotics. So that's one place. But I want to look at companies that are robotics. Let me give you an example. Where are they? I'll give you this stock here. Here's an example of one, all right? So it's something like this, all right? It's a very cheap stock, Robo AI, all right? It's motors, all right? But $1.70. And where is the other one as well? So you look at this company here, $67, exchange traded funds seeking results corresponding to Robo Global Robotics and Automation Index. So inside of this ETF, it's the makeup of robotics. So you could either get involved in robotic companies or an ETF that is surrounded by robotic companies. Okay. You're better off with the idea of the ETF to get started off. Why? Because rather than investigating what's going on in inside of each robotic company, right, you eliminate your risk by getting involved in an ETF, okay? Because then you're speculating that overall the environment is going to be better in the future. And if everything is going to evolve, then naturally that's going to then move up. That's what an ETF is. It's a makeup of assets, okay? Are you still expecting lower prices for Circle to buy? I don't think Circle will. Well, it all depends on this because no one in crypto has said anything about this. No one's said anything yet. It says here, community reactions are muted as key leaders like Vitalik and Arthur Hayes remain silent on social media. So let's see what the heavyweights do say about everything. Okay, here we go. Tino, since all that infrastructure will need to be built, do you think we will see a big move in copper? More than likely. More than likely. That's why Trump's trying to do all these tariffs with regards to certain materials. But, you know, copper will always be that thing that is used. So you will always hold on to copper. Copper will only move depending on geopolitical stories and Trump making any references and what have you. But I think, you know, gold, silver, that's where you need to be looking, ladies and gentlemen. That's where you need to be looking. You know, it's just silver, $50. I've been calling for that. It's not too far away from it. And gold, Goldman Sachs, they want $4,500 gold. I mean, come on, man. You know? But anyways, with that being said, mad love and respect. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. And please rate this live. Like it, dislike it. Either or, at least it's a bit of activity on the channel. All right. I'll be tuning into you all tomorrow morning, ladies and gentlemen, when we get the results of the manufacturing data. Let's see what madness this circle is going to reveal soon. Circle? Yeah. Circle? No?